Alright, check it, y'all. This deck guarantees you'll win. That's right. Just playing this deck gives you a 1 in 10 chance of your opponent immediately conceding due to you just playing this deck is so fire. No cap. You win the other 9 times because you nice, but this deck automatically give you that last W. See? I'm telling you, you can't miss with this deck. Playing this, you'll be like Curry or Deadshot or Hawkeye. Before the show. Morning, afternoon, evening. What up, what up, what up? Sly Boogie, hope all is well. As promised, this is Elder Scrolls Legends, an animal early aggression build utilizing a lot of animal creatures, mainly wolves, mud crabs, and a few Khajiit to move around and attack fast. No support cards needed. The monsters can buff themselves and help good game your opponent GG fast. Shout out to that Prof MPO. Hey, this is not a unique deck. I'm told that you can find this on Reddit. It's just kind of a more or less top tier build. And yeah, I want to kind of break it down, so let's get to work. We are going to break this down into 3 parts: the build, the play style, and the flaws. We're using the mud crabs to populate the field fast. With the mud crabs, strongly recommend you start with 3 mud crab merchants. The cards he generates are random, obviously, but often they can help enhance your hand at the cost of giving your opponent the other, hopefully crappy card to keep. Regardless, choose wisely and remember you're going for the knockout, so anything that helps do that fast is ideal. The second card here that's key is Old Salty's Assault. 3 copies so you can have access to swim the field fast on turn 5 or turn 4 if you're going second, and set up a strong attack next turn, you know, assuming they survive. With the Khajiit, we need the move so we can save our monsters from attacks and maneuver around guard. Again, we're not trying to trade with creatures, we're trying to swing fast. We have 3 copies of Doom Smuggler, which are key, as when anyone on your side moves by any effect, they are boosted by 1 attack and defense while he's on the field. Shadow Shift goes hand in hand. You get the move plus you draw a card, so at 1 cost, nice. 3 Doomstalkers for a cheap 3 attack that can move, also a prophecy, and 1 copy of Monk Strike for a move and drain, which you'd be surprised you can actually utilize that with the previous cards in the field and have a high attack monster off of that. And if that's swinging direct, it's going to really apply pressure on your opponent. Darkmane is a sleeper card at 3, and it'll hit fast and hard if left unchecked. His effect activates anytime he's moved, whether his effect or another effect. So obviously with the Khajiit engine, you can have him with 8 attack with drain on the field. Easy. Powerful. 2 copies of 5th Legion Trainer to boost your next summons. It's easy to combo as there are plenty of cards that allow you to summon more than 1 monster in the field. The monsters are cheap as a whole, so it's just very easy to utilize the effect. Again, all the monsters have low defense, so you're not going to get a lot of use with this card before she dies from a regular attack. Swift Strike helps to get an extra attack with your monster, preferably 1 boosted from the previous move mechanics I explained earlier. You want to use this to close out the game or really get close. I'm thinking on turn 3 or 4, if you're able to activate this, if you have a monster from 5 to 8 attack that already gotten a direct attack off and you happen to do that again, they should be at half life or less than that. And again, you're doing this on turn 3 or 4, hopefully you can definitely get some damage off. Late game, you want to kind of use this to kind of close out the game. So you don't want to apply pressure late game unless you can close it out. You don't want to kind of give your opponent more cards to come back from that. Regardless, the wolves are where you can sneaky attacks in to generate monster presence and strong attacks if left unchecked. Pack Leader is key to help your wolves gain attack as whoever's on the field is boosted, and he puts 1 on the field if he pilfers with his effect. Pack Wolf can help set up early with the monster on each side. The wolves as a whole help with field presence even though they're low on attack. That's why you're utilizing just attacking directly more than trading. Moving on to the boss cards, we have 3 copies of ShadowGreen Elder who boosts all animals by 2/2. All the wolves and mud crabs and reflective automaton benefit from this, and ShadowGreen Elder is pretty much your closer at turn 7. She doesn't attack, no charge, but she boosts everybody by 2/2 That's why I kind of spoke about not needing support. She is that support. Unfortunately, she works best when you have a full field, so the more monsters that are available to utilize the effect, the better. Unless you're playing Invade, you really shouldn't be trying to trade with your opponent unless they have Drain, or if they have Guard and you're not able to move around it. Or if you just want to set up for a stronger monster later in terms of the next turn summons. Now, this card in particular, I do want to kind of just take time to shout this out. This is a close at 4 attack and it has charge. It's just so self-explanatory. I just want to take the time right now to say a personal and heartfelt FU to this card, because I have lost so many duels from this card. Like literally, it'd be turn 8, 7. I finally put a Necromancer's Amulet on the field. I'd be having my Drain set up. I'd be thinking like, yo, I just need one more turn to survive, and then this guy just hits the field. I hate this card. Breathe in. Woosah. Okay. Breathe out. Feel a little better now. Yep. Moving on. So I think for clarity purposes, I do want to include a match from start to finish where you kind of see a full gameplay utilizing everything that we talked about, you know, for old school sake. So enjoy, and let's continue the discussion in terms of the play style now. The play style, and that's really simply to hit the ground swinging. The build itself, you're usually drawing a card that costs 2, if not 1, so you're able to set up early in terms of the pace and can pretty much start to work your opponent, assuming that your opponent is not as fast as you with the aggression. By turn 3, you usually have access to one of the Dune cards to help maneuver and start breaking runes. That'll be where you apply pressure to your opponent. Remember, you don't want to attack your opponent's monsters. You want to keep swinging and focus on their health with direct attacks. You're going to continue to summon monsters every turn, so you want to keep the attacks up to just keep your opponent off balance. Now, that's pretty much it. You want to keep swinging, and you have the maneuverability as you've seen in terms of increasing the attack and dodging around both lanes. That's really where you start applying pressure to your opponent. Remember, you don't want to attack your opponent's monsters. You want to focus on their health with direct attacks. You're going to summon monsters every turn, so you want to keep the attacks up to continue to keep your opponent off balance. It's very straightforward in terms of the attack, but the way you maneuver, how you maneuver, that's what separates this build. It's very easy to kind of just punch and continue to punch until it's pretty much game over. However, let's move on to the flaws of this build. A majority of the early game cards have low defense, so action cards that deal damage will be able to stop this dead in the tracks. Black Hand Messenger, Fireball, easy examples, Lightning Bolt, etc. Ice Storm is your worst enemy at turn 6 or turn 5. Your opponent's going second, because that has the potential to pretty much kill your entire field. No monsters in this deck is good as dead. Tribunal and Intelligence in general can provide you a lot of problems with the cards that they have access to. Regarding the low defense that we have, Lethal is also something that can overwhelm you if they start to get their effects off in terms of a Slay deck. So you have to play cautious in the lanes that they are in. Again, the maneuverability is extremely important. The number one weakness for this build is Guard. Initially, it may be no more than a nuisance early game, but Guard monsters at later turns with higher defenses can pretty much stall you out and give your opponent time to really set up and knock you out. That's a no-go. We are not running cards like Javelin, so you have to be early and aggressive. We run one copy of Anasi to take all enemy keywords away, but it's mostly to help further deplete your opponent's life with attacks with the monsters you already have on the field. And though this deck is fast, do not assume that this build is always going to outrun your opponent in terms of aggression or damage. Relentless Raider is a problem in red-blue builds, and that can kind of go toe-to-toe with you, especially considering his effect. Relentless Raider can do big damage with this effect, and is a card that you should trade with if your opponent's trying to set up for that. That's probably the only example I can give where I'd kill that card in a heartbeat if I saw it on the field. Regardless though, I hope that you have fun trying out this build. Let me know in the comments if you're able to dominate in your matches. Compared to my Goblin builds and even my Scrap build series I did way back, this deck is, for me, faster than both of them. On turn 1, I'm usually on the field ready to swing for 2. And if my opponent waits until turn 3 or 4 just to summon a monster, I can be well off breaking not only my opponent's first rune, but maybe even the second one if I can really apply pressure on the field and maybe get a boost off. Action heavy builds, again, will give you a problem, but they need to get active early to try to keep up with you. So I would always recommend just continuing to apply pressure until you can't. I'd also like to take a brief moment to address a comment that I make, or just how I talk. I talk about this deck being fast. I talk about this deck being faster than the Scrap deck, which is a red-blue build that I premiered on the channel, as well as Goblins. What I am not talking about, however, is consistency. Khajiitville, a deck profile I did in the past, that's one of my most consistent aggressive decks that I've ever put on the channel. It's not the fastest, but when it gets going, there is very little that can stop it. It can KO you in a turn depending on if I have Master Thieves and Thieves Den on the field, and maybe 1 or 2 Pilfer monsters. That is a consistent and extremely fast build when that gets going. This build is not the most consistent, as the monsters have very low defense and they don't have any sort of support that they can kind of utilize to increase their attack. Khajiit has the maneuverability of the Doom cards that we're using, plus additional cards to boost their attack. Even the card that gives Khajiit 1/1 in the deck, if it gets the Pilfer effect off, there's just a lot going for Khajiit that makes it more consistent than this animal build, but the quickness of this build cannot be understated. The match you're seeing here, my opponents had a good guard to kind of stop me in my tracks early and stall me for a bit, but you dealing with the opponent that does not have guard or is not able to compete with you in terms of aggression and just trying to match you early, by turn 4 or 5, you could really be in a position where you have 3 to 4 monsters in the field swinging, and that's powerful.
And then continuing to do so. You are my master. What you do for now? We must join forces.
Anyway, that is the deck breakdown and the build discussion. The deck code will be in the description below for you guys to try out. I hope this has been helpful for you. I hope you've been entertained. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.